Hello and welcome to the Heat Check podcast, the Miami Herald's Miami Heat podcast. My voice really broke at the top there because I'm recovering from a cold. I'm David Wilson, recovering from a cold, and I'm joined as always on the other line by Anthony Chang, our beat writer here at the Herald. Anthony, you're back in Miami. How's it going?
I'm good. Drinking Cuban coffee. I'm not in Phoenix anymore.
You did bring your setup with you though, didn't you?
I did bring it to LA because my wife went out there with me.
Oh, okay.
I would not be able to pack
I
it
saw
up
the
by
Instagram
myself.
story or whatever.
Yeah. I would not be able to pack that up by myself. I have enough trouble packing my clothes. So she went with me, so I took advantage. She packed it. She took it home. I didn't have it in Phoenix with me because she left from LA. So I went a few days without Cuban coffee, but I'm back.
You've got your hat on, right? Is that the Cuban coffee hat? There you go.
Yeah.
Back in Miami.
Coffee rules everything around me. Cream.
Is that what this? I wasn't sure exactly what not cafecito rules everything around me.
Oh, that too. Yeah.
Okay. So Heat back at home, get the win on Monday night against the Rockets after a 2-3 road trip. Some big ones coming up here on this 4-game homestand, including the Thunder on Wednesday. Let's start though with a quick breakdown of the Houston game, which gets the Heat back up to 6 games above 500. And as you said, after I don't want to say like a mixed bag of a road trip. I think we came out of that road trip. He kind of did what they had to do, but come back home and get a win against a team basically they should beat and do it with, Jimmy Butler still out. Bunch of young guy, Nikola Jovic, kind of a little bit of a breakout performance. 7 assists from Duncan Robinson. Another one of those kind of all hands on deck Heat wins. What was your big takeaway from last night?
They did what they were supposed to do, and this is not a bad Rockets team. I mean,
no, not bad. They're like 500 now. Yeah.
Yeah, they're 18 and 17 now. They're entered at 18 and 16. They entered the top 5 defense. The defense has been really good under Ime. Really got a 3-point line well. They switch. Sometimes it gives the Heat issues, especially when they don't have Jimmy. So it was impressive what they did on offense against a defense like that without Jimmy Butler, without Caleb Martin, with Kyle Lowry leaving pretty much early in the third quarter and didn't return because of a hand injury. So they're missing, 3 rotation guys pretty much.
Yep.
They shoot 50% from the field, 41% on threes. They have 30 assists to 10 turnovers. Just a really good, clean, quality offensive performance against a good defense. More encouraging signs by the offense that it is better than last year. Obviously, making threes help. But, again, just the depth continues to stand out. Even without those guys, like you have 6 guys in double figures. You have Kevin Love continuing to turn back the clock. I mean, there's another podcast for another day, but where would this team be without Kevin Love? I don't think that's overstating it. Like, he has been, even like advanced metrics wise.
Yeah,
Love has been the best player on the team apparently.
He's been the biggest. They've gone for a lot of these, and like you said, this could be a whole episode at some point here. But this team over the last, basically since we've been doing this podcast, have gone after a lot of these vets, right? Whether it was PJ Tucker, obviously was like a huge success for them. Trevor Ariza is one who kind of did not work out. Kevin Love is kind of, I think
Cody
Jake
Zeller
Crowder would be another one you would throw in that. Cody Zeller last year. Kevin Love is to me, it's like him and PJ Tucker as far as like the veteran guys who have just been like kind of smash successes for this team. And Love, when they, in the regular season last year, it didn't really look like that was going to be the case, but obviously what he did for them in the playoffs last year and now into the regular season this year, stabilizing them at points in throughout last season. And like you said, this year, just kind of rounding out the rotation with exactly what they need.
Yeah. And just stabilizing at backup center too, which has been an issue.
Right. Which has been a huge issue basically. Yeah. For
those have been positive minutes now. Like that's a huge difference as opposed to -10 every night whenever Bam's off the court. Like now he's a +5, +7. Like usually they're positive minutes. So he's been really, really good. Again, Duncan Robinson, like you said, tied a career high with 7 assists. And then the young guys. I mean, Bam and Tyler obviously led the way, played really well in the second half. You have Jaime scoring double digits. You have Nico kind of stuffing the box score. This just all around contribution. So that's kind of been, I think, the identity of this team so far is just like the depth, especially when they're shorthanded, and we saw that again last night.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing is like we talk a lot, and we have talked a lot over the last couple of years about identity and some Heat teams, the identity's been defense. I think last year, one of our problems with this team was they kind of had no identity in the regular season. The defense was good, but not great. The offense was bad. The 3-point shooting, which kind of became their identity
in the playoffs.
2 years and 2 years ago when
Yeah.
when they led the league in 3-point shooting, that was non-existent last year. This year, their identity has been, like you said, the depth has been. The identity will obviously be different in the playoffs because when Jimmy Butler is healthy, he becomes the identity. But to get through the regular season, they needed, and just knowing that Jimmy was going to miss 15, 20 games like he always does, you needed to find some identity this year. And I think, Bam's kind of elevation has been a huge part of that, right? Going from being a guy who I think was like, when he was cast as your number 2 guy, it was kind of like an odd fit, at least on the offensive end. This year, he is, I know like Tyler Hero's got to probably lead the team in scoring. That's going to be a prediction you get right. But Bam he's the best guy on offense for this team. And that's a huge part of it. But the other thing is the depth, which coming into the season, that was the big talking point around the team, right? And I was kind of skeptical because how is that going to be the case after they lost Max Strus and Gabe Vincent, and had to recast the backup center spot, and we're like, what was Jaime Jaquez going to be? And instead, Duncan Robinson's roared back to life. Jaime Jaquez is great, like you mentioned. Kevin Love is kind of, we thought that was going to be Thomas Bryant as the backup center. It's really just become kind of Kevin Love. All the stuff they were talking about in the preseason has come to pass because, as we've said a lot of times, they've gotten the most out of every single guy on this roster. Duncan Robinson is this the best season of his career? I know he was great during the season that ended in the bubble run.
Probably has been all around. Yeah.
Yeah. But the way that he's rounded out his game has been just massive for this team. And then obviously guys like Jaquez and Kevin Love. Kevin Love obviously not playing the best basketball of his career, but playing kind of closer. What he wasn't he the runner up for
Sixth Man of the Year with Tyler?
The year Tyler won. He's close. He's closer to that Kevin Love than he was last year. Obviously, I don't. He's not going to be in the running for that award this year, but
why not?
But he's one of the more valuable bench players in the league again. Which all these guys are kind of playing the best that you could possibly ask for them at this stage of their career.
Yeah, and it's like you mentioned. Obviously, Jaime's a new addition, but it's guys that have won the team last year.
Right.
Like Duncan playing a lot better, playing a bigger role because now he's actually playing consistent minutes. Kevin Love playing a lot better than he did last year. And this is without really. And Haywood Highsmith again. I know he's 3 points last night.
That's another guy.
That's another guy. Yeah. Yeah, that they're expecting to step into a big role, and he's played well, obviously. And then that's without Caleb Martin has missed. He missed 10 games, I think, in the first few weeks. He's missed now 6 straight.
Yeah.
He was entering the season probably the Heat's 4th best player, at least everyone thought. Probably should have won Eastern Conference Finals MVP last year. Yeah. And he has missed almost half the season. Jimmy Butler has missed double-digit games. Tyler Hero has missed 18 games. Bam has missed double-digit games. Again, we talk about it every week, but it just continues to be the case. Yes, you can be frustrated with some losses, but big picture-wise, 21-15 with everything the team has gone through with a West Coast trip behind them. It's impressive. It's impressive to considering everything they've gone through. It's not up to their standards, and they'll say that this is not where we want to be. We don't want to be 4th or 5th in the East. We want to be number 1 or number 2. But I think they're in a good spot, all things considered.
Yeah, I think the important thing about that identity that they found is right now they're playing, obviously, like you mentioned, without Caleb Martin. That's a big deal, right? But
yeah,
ultimately a role player. The big one is right now they're playing without Jimmy Butler. And the way that Jimmy plays in the regular season, kind of slots in perfect. They found an identity that works, that will work when Jimmy's still out there, because he, I know drives Heat fans crazy sometimes that he'll play a game and take 8 shots or whatever and not really assert himself except for a handful of stretches here and there. But I mean, you stick him back into the lineup at some point here in the next, I don't know. He talked today. I guess we'll talk about the latest on his status in a second. But you insert him back into this lineup with the way that the Heat have played now for, you go back kind of that stretch right before the road trip when they were playing well. through the road trip. Or for the most part, I think they obviously went 2-3, but I think played well for the most part, and we're playing the same way, right? They've kind of hit on this identity, like you said.
Yeah.
That I think Jimmy Butler can just like slot right back in, and all he does is like it won't change too much. I don't think. I think all it does is all of a sudden, Haywood Highsmith, who played 16 minutes last night, plays 8 minutes, and
Jovic is maybe out of the rotation now. Yeah.
Yeah, Jovic goes out of the rotation, right? I guess he played 21 last night, so yeah. You're just upgrading there. You're not totally changing the fundamentals. And Nikola Jovic, kind of like obviously the shooting, 6 points on 9 shots isn't very good, but the rest of that stat line was a pretty Jimmy Butler looking stat line.
Yeah, 8.6. 8 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. Yeah, Jimmy Butler makes his team better. I don't think that's.
Yeah, no. But the important thing I think is that he doesn't change the way this team looks.
Change, right?
It looks the exact same way.
And I think this is an identity that can get you through the regular season, which is kind of what this team is looking for. In the playoffs,
it's what they didn't have last year. That was the whole problem last year.
Exactly. And it's what they had 2 years ago, which is why they were the top seed in the East.
And then they looked different come the playoffs, and it was fine. They got within a shot of the Eastern Conference, or within a shot of the NBA Finals.
We know Jimmy's usage is going to go up in the playoffs. We know that. We know maybe the depth won't matter as much in the playoffs. But we know that it works. Like we've seen it now for 4 years in a row. We know that the playoff formula for this team, when it turns to that, when it turns things, turns it up, like it works. It's a successful formula. So I think right now it's bad to say, but you're just trying to get through the regular season and get to the best possible position. I think so far this projects well to that. I think there's, the hope is they'll start to get healthier. They have a lot of home games coming up. Like, yes, there's a little gap between the top 3 right now and the 4, 5, 6, 7 in the standings. But if they go a little run here, like, they
what are they? 2.5 back, 3.5 back of
3 back, maybe? Yeah.
3 back, yeah.
So, but even then, if you finish 4, like,
it's
worse. I think the goal right now.
Right now, it's like a 45-way tie for 4th place, I think. But
it's great. Yeah, it's pretty loaded. They are 2.5 back of 3. They can get. They can get there.
Yeah, you can easily make that up.
So, I think they're in a good spot.
And as we've said a lot, you just want to get Jimmy Butler back because you want to see an extended run of the Tyler Jimmy with whatever he is now, which is maybe a little worse than he was the last couple of years. How that balance will work with much improved Bam and much improved Tyler. Well, obviously we didn't even see Tyler Hero during the playoffs really last year, so they got to just we want to get a look at that. So I guess on that note, Jimmy Butler talked at practice today after missing how many in a row has he missed?
He's missed
the whole West Coast trip.
This will be his 5th game tomorrow. He's missing in a row.
Yeah. So what's the latest there on his status?
He basically said what's been reported. At first I thought it was serious. Like they were concerned that it was a serious foot injury. And they've since learned in the last week or so that it's not as serious, that he's going to be able to return soon. I think the hope is around the team that he'll be back during the homestand, which is good news. He's going to miss again tomorrow's game against OKC or today's game if you're listening to this on Wednesday.
Yep.
He's going to miss the OKC game, but he was doing a little bit of work at practice today. And again, he could be back during the homestand. If not, I'm guessing soon after. So that's positive news. Obviously, you want to get him back as soon as possible. But the fact that it's not a serious injury, he spoke to the media, which is a good sign because the fact that he's speaking to the media means he's probably close. All positive news that he'll be back soon. The only concern is, like, there have been multiple injuries with Jimmy. He's 34. Like, is this going to be something like where he compensates on something else and something else pops up? Like, I know that's been a question with the calf injury and then this one, like, were they related?
Yeah.
So we'll have to see about that. But for right now, it looks like the news is good and he'll be back soon.
Yeah. And the nice thing when you worry about him coming back, they have no need to rush him back right now.
No.
So you never know, like injuries can compound like that, but the Heat have no reason really to rush him back in a way that he could exacerbate anything. So, but yeah, selfishly and obviously the Heat, not even selfishly, the Heat want to see it. We want to see those guys all get back so we can see what they look like all together. Fortunately, it won't be Wednesday, which is one of the Heat's biggest home games, basically the biggest home game in a month. I guess
Philly
was on Christmas. I forgot about that one. But another big home game for the Heat on Wednesday as they take on the surging Oklahoma City Thunder. Are you excited to see Chet Holmgren?
Yeah, I mean OKC is probably one of the most exciting teams in the league at this point.
Yeah, well, certainly
with Shea
across
and
the board.
Chet, yeah, and then Chet with what he's doing. I still don't think he's a rookie, but we'll get to that another day. And he's probably going to win Rookie of the Year. So, but yeah, it's going to be fun to watch him, especially against Bam. Like, or if Jovic plays. What if Jovic starts again and has to guard Holmgren? Like, that might not be great for the Heat, but that'll be fun to watch. So yeah, I'm excited to see what that looks like because we don't get a chance to watch him much down here, obviously, and a lot of times I'm working when they're playing, so I don't get a chance to watch them much. I just see the highlights or the box scores. So yeah, I'm curious to see what that looks like against the Heat.
You mentioned that he is probably the Rookie of the Year favorite. Number 2 on that list, frankly, might be Jaime Jaquez. So obviously, Victor Wembanyama is going to be in that mix too, based on the highlights, and we know he'll go on some crazy run at some point. So this could be a Rookie of the Year showdown potentially. Chet seems to be the overwhelming favorite at this point. I don't know what the odds say, but seems pretty clear that he's a step above everyone else. As you mentioned, though, he's was not drafted in the last 6 months or whatever it would be, 7-8 months. It would be typical for a rookie. Jaime Jaquez, on the other hand, has been. So what do you think Jaime Jaquez has to do to win Rookie of the Year?
I mean, he has to obviously play well. I don't know if he can.
I guess that's the question. Do you think there's any way that he could jump past
No,
Chet?
Because even though I would agree with you, David, that I'm not saying he's had a better rookie season than Victor, but I think it's a conversation that is like viable at least. Like you can make an argument that he has had a better rookie year when you contribute, when you account for like impacting winning and like team success and all that. I think that Jaime has had a comparable year to Victor Wembanyama, but Chet has been so good, and his team has been one of the best in the NBA. Averaging 18 points a game, 7 rebounds, shooting 55% from the field, 40% on threes, 3 blocks. Like, it's going to be tough. I mean, Jaime has a big role right now. He's bigger than any of us thought. But when this team is healthy, he's just not going to have the opportunity to put up those numbers. And at the end of the day, it's going to come down to the numbers and also the fact that OKC has been really, really good this year.
Yeah, that's the challenge there, right? It's like if this was between Victor and Jaquez, I'm looking at NBA's rookie ladder has Victor second.
Yeah.
And he's averaging a double-double and tied for the league lead.
Oh, he's had a good year. Yeah.
So, but the case that one would make is
team success.
That team's absolutely terrible, and Jaime Jaquez is really good for a really good team. The challenge there is going to be that Chet has similar numbers to Victor. I think second among rookies in scoring, 2.7 blocks per game, and he's doing it for a contender. Whereas Jaquez has really good numbers, but
not quite that. Yeah,
not quite on that level.
I think that it's just a win for Jaime and the Heat. That I mean,
we're talking about this.
What would have I?
It's not like insane.
No, what would you have said if I would have told you in June that Jaime is going to be in the conversation with Victor Wembanyama and Chet Holmgren for Rookie of the Year?
I know. Crazy.
Like, that's insane. So I think, the chance of him actually winning the award, probably slim because Chet has been so good and Victor probably would get it ahead of him as well. But the fact that he's in that conversation is just an awesome sign for the Heat because that means he's been way, way better than any of us anticipated.
On that note, we were talking a little bit earlier about the impressive depth of the Heat on Monday. Obviously, we've got this rookie showdown coming up. Particularly on Monday, the Heat's all 5 of the Heat's last draft picks have been in the news lately. 4 of the last 5 because they played well on Monday. Those were, of course, Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, first round picks, I should say. Yeah. Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, Nikola Jovic, who played one of his best games for the Heat on Monday, and obviously Jaime Jaquez, who this is our weekly Jaime Jaquez segment at this point. The last 10 minutes of every episode seem to be dedicated to Jaime Jaquez, and kind of like deservedly so. The 5th pick of this last run of first round picks for the Heat, Precious Achiuwa, who was just traded from the Raptors to the Knicks as part of the OG Anunoby trade. But Anthony, you wanted to go through the drafts of the four Heat youngsters. Bam in 2017, Hero in 19, Jovic in 22, and obviously Jaquez this year, and try to figure out where these Heat players would slot in a redraft. So let's go back as far as possible, and we'll wrap things up with Jaquez in the 23 draft. Starting with 2017, Bam goes. Oh, I should have pulled it up.
14.
14.
He goes
right?
14.
Where do you think he would go in a redraft now?
I think this one is fairly easy. The only player I would take ahead of him is Tatum.
Okay.
I think the only one
in that draft, I should just pull up these drafts while we're talking. So,
in that draft, I would have Tatum, Bam, Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, so I think that's the clear top three. In that draft, in real life, it went Fultz 1, Lonzo 2, Tatum 3. And as you mentioned, Bam at 14. And Donovan Mitchell went 13. But yeah, I think Tatum clearly goes number 1. And then, yeah, I think it's a debate between Mitchell or Bam.
I would pick Bam only because, he's had more postseason success than Donovan Mitchell. So, like, his game has translated better to the postseason so far.
Yep.
He's a better defensive player. Not as good of an offensive player, but he's good enough, I think, that he compares to Donovan Mitchell. So I would just Bam is so unique. I think, he's a more unique player than Donovan Mitchell. Defensively, he adds so much. He should be in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation every year.
Yep.
So I think I would think most people would pick Bam over Donovan Mitchell in that. Like, would you, like, right now, would you trade Bam for Donovan Mitchell? Probably not.
No.
I don't think most people would do that. So I think Bam goes 2. Donovan Mitchell goes 3, and then you have like Lauri Markkanen, De'Aaron Fox, OG, I guess, Kyle Kuzma, John Collins, Lonzo Ball. Unfortunately for him, his career has kind of been impacted by injuries.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
But the top 3 I think are pretty clear, and then probably Lauri Markkanen is 4, De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah, I have Fox 4, Markkanen 5.
Yeah,
and then.
OG,
the only other
probably.
guy from that draft who's ever been an All-Star, I think, is Jarrett Allen. So yeah, you get like
Jarrett Allen. Yeah, Jarrett. I was gonna say I was looking at according to win shares right now. Tatum is 1, Allen is 2, Bam is 3. So the advanced metrics say Allen should go 2, but I don't think. I mean, sometimes the stats are noisy. So
right.
I still stick with Bam at 2 over Jarrett Allen.
But
yeah, Jarrett Allen is
an obvious one.
Yeah, I think Jarrett Allen definitely probably. When you went 22 in that draft, definitely has outperformed that draft slot.
Yeah, a lot of good guys like kind of in that because OG is right around there also, right?
Yeah, OG was 23.
23. Yeah.
Josh Hart 30. He's had a good career.
Yeah, Josh. Derek White 29. I mean, he's climbing up into
that's a good one actually. He's probably
too.
You could make the argument he deserves to be. I guess top 6.
Top 6 probably at this point.
Yeah.
Top 7 maybe. Him and Jarrett Allen, I guess. Kyle Kuzma, 27. Pretty good, like bottom half of this draft.
Yeah,
bottom half.
Of solid draft.
Former future Heat, John Collins.
He's always linked to the Heat.
Always linked to the Heat. Yeah. Okay. 2019. That is the Tyler Hero draft. I will read first what actually happened in the top 5. You had this is one of the weirdest drafts in recent history. You had Zion go 1, John Morant go 2, RJ Barrett 3, DeAndre Hunter 4, Darius Garland 5. How high does Hero go in a redraft here?
I want to say I'll put him 3.
Yeah, I put him 4, but yeah, it's a 3. I mean, it's so weird because I have Ja 1, Zion 2.
Yeah,
but like. Do you feel good about taking either of those guys at this point? But you would have to.
I would have to. I would still put those guys in the top 2. I would agree with you. And then this comes down to Darius Garland or Tyler Hero to me.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it's so close. I'm taking Tyler Hero just because I watch him play day to day. And I think he has, he has a lot of upside still. He's 22. So I still take Tyler Hero, but yeah, I think he's 3 or 4, which again, just like Bam, just very good pick at 13 to be.
So
He's a top,
13.
would have been a
Forgot to
top
say,
5
Tyler Hero
guy.
went 13th in the draft.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And then again, according to win shares, John Morant 1, Daniel Gafford 2, Brandon Clark 3, Nick Claxton 4, Zion Williamson 5.
Claxton,
so it's a good. I mean, that's a 31. I mean, a second round.
I missed him when I was going through this. Yeah, 31.
Cam Johnson also 11. Good pick. But yeah,
we were trying to figure out who rounds out the top 5. I guess it's got to be R.J. Barrett, but this draft falls off quickly.
What Kobe White?
Kobe White, who's like having this career resurgence or late breakout season, I guess. Yeah, it falls off. I mean, Jordan Poole is in this draft. As you mentioned, Nick Claxton goes one spot before KZ Okpala. And two very good undrafted guys in this draft.
I was gonna say, yeah.
I don't know if they're lottery picks in a redraft, but they are definitely first round picks who have a chance. Max Strus and Caleb Martin, which are two obviously not guys that the Heat signed as undrafted guys, but really broke out in their careers as Heat players.
Do you think any of those two guys would be lottery picks? I think there's an argument to be made.
7.
They're on the borderline for sure. Because I'm taking Caleb or Max over Cam Reddish.
I mean, you're getting like Jordan
Horton
Poole,
Tucker,
right? Keldon Johnson. I'm definitely taking him over Kevin Porter.
Not over DeAndre Hunter. Probably not over PJ Washington.
Yeah.
Rui. I mean, they're right on the board. Like you could say
they're in that same tier as Rui Hachimura, who went 9.
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't take him Cam Johnson, but PJ Washington, who went 12.
He basically got 3 top 20 guys in that draft.
Thibault, who went 20. Like they're all in that same range, sort of, right?
They got
Grant Williams.
They got 3 top 20 guys in that draft.
Yeah, I think top 20 is pretty obvious.
Obviously, one is not on the team anymore, Max in Cleveland, but still, like.
And again, it wasn't like the Heat signed these guys after college, but their best seasons came in Miami.
Sure. Yeah, that was definitely a good draft for the Heat. Looking back, when you consider.
Yeah, it would be interesting to hear. I mean, it's like kind of irrelevant now, but it would be kind of interesting to hear what the scouting like. Because, again, they didn't sign them. It's not like they were the priority guys that they went after and brought them to Summer League. It'd be interesting to see what the Heat's like scouting reports looked like for a guy like Caleb Martin or Max Strus. There have been a couple, like Kendrick Nunn was another guy who was undrafted, not signed by the Heat originally. But, like, I'm always like those guys who teams pass over at one point, but then eventually become guys for that team. I'm always interested by, like, how much of their evaluation that they had on them coming out of college kind of matches what they became in the NBA and how much was based on something they saw. Because, Caleb Martin was a real player in Charlotte. Max Strus was
he was a G League guy.
So, like, that one, I don't know. Like, the evaluation on Caleb easily could have changed, but I can't imagine it changed very much on Max Strus based on, like, what they saw in the main Red Claws or whoever he was playing for.
We should also point out that Duncan Robinson went undrafted in 2018. He didn't have a pick that year, but
they did sign him.
They did sign him immediately after that draft, and he probably would be a lottery pick in that draft. We don't have to go through it, but I'm looking at it right now, just kind of like scanning it. He probably would be a lottery pick. So it's just
that's a wild top of the draft too, by the way. That was the Ayton,
Bagley, Luka, Trey. I mean, then you go to Mo Bamba, Wendell Carter, Kevin Knox. Like, he probably Jerome Robinson. Like, he probably is in that back end of the lottery. Duncan Robinson. But anyway, go ahead.
All right. 2022. This is the Nikola Jovic draft. I don't think he goes in the top.
Number 2.
Yeah. I'm curious. How much he doesn't go in the top 5. He probably doesn't go in the top 10.
No.
He goes in real life. He goes
27.
27. Yeah.
Just probably close to where.
Yeah, I think that's about right. Right. Top 5 of that draft is Paolo, Chet, Jabari Smith, Keegan Murray, Jaden Ivey, You roll down the list, like you'd probably take him over Johnny Davis. You'd probably take him over. I mean, I don't even know. Some of these guys are like the jury's still out. Yeah, he maybe goes a couple spots higher.
Yeah, like low 20s maybe.
There's no one behind him that I'm like, ooh, they really screwed up by not taking him, which is kind of the important thing, right now.
Jake LaRavia, man, I wanted him. I really, that's funny. Looking back at some of these names, you're like, man, that's the guy. He's the guy I was interested in.
Jamal Cain undrafted this year.
Jamal Cain. Yeah, I think this is a pretty simple one. Like I think it remains to be seen too. Like Nico has the upside
with a lot of these guys, right? Like
especially as you get sooner, it's closer now. Like back then, Bam, like we kind of know what that draft class is at this point.
Yes.
Like this one from last year is just so soon to really tell. But right now, I don't think it was a bad pick. I just don't know if he's gonna like outperform his draft slot like Tyler Hero Bam did.
Those other.
Or Jaime is doing. But he could. I mean, we've seen flashes recently of Nico getting better as a defender. We see like his skill level with as a passer, as a guy who can push it in the in transition. Getting better as a rebounder at 8 rebounds in 21 minutes. Like he has the size and skill set to be kind of a unique player. He could end up play his way into like being considered a lottery guy in this draft. It's not out of the realm of possibility. It just hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. And, he was taken so late in the first round that it's very unlikely that we're going to like look back and say, oh, they like took him way too high. Right. Like I said, no one behind him in this draft, just
has
quickly
popped,
scanning through it, has popped that I can think of. So I guess like Andrew Nemhart, right. He's good. He's a pretty good start to his career for Indiana, but otherwise, like we're not going to look back and say like, man, that guy's not even a first round talent, which sometimes does happen with those guys who were taken late in the first round. Where just like nothing, they give you absolutely nothing. Jovic has already given you, who knows if he'll actually ever be valuable to this team, but he's given you a reason for excitement. But you are right. The Thunder did take 2 Jalen Williams in the draft.
They did, right?
About that before, yeah.
That's a nightmare for a journalist. Oof,
I know. At least they're spelled differently.
They are. It's Jaylin and then
I just remember the Marlins, the COVID year. Remember that like the entire team got COVID the first week of the year, and they had 2 Josh Smiths on the team by the end of that.
Yeah, a lot of Josh Smiths
A and Josh C, I think.
Did we have to write middle initials like when we wrote about them?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I can't imagine they were like relief pitchers on it, like who were not around for very long, but yeah. Okay, this is the fun one. 2023. Obviously, the draft did not happen very long ago, so we don't have to do like a redraft here. But Jaime Jaquez obviously goes 18 in this draft. I think he clearly goes in the lottery. I think he goes. Again, we're doing like a spit take reaction here. I think he probably goes top 10 if you redo this draft. How high do you think he would go? I've got 7 guys written down who I think would still probably go ahead of him if you do this again.
I think just based off of play this year, he goes 2. But based off of upside, I think he goes 6. I think the top 5 still keep their guys because of the upside, like Brandon Miller, Scoot Henderson.
Yeah, so the top 5
the Thompson brothers,
Victor Wembanyama, Brandon Miller, Scoot Henderson, Amen Thompson, Azar Thompson. That's the top 5.
I mean, Lively has been good.
Yeah, the other 2 guys I had, I kept the top 5. The other guys I had was Lively, who I think probably would actually jump into the top 5. Young guy, and the other guy I had, Keontae George is the other guy who I said I think probably would still, because of age. Huh?
He killed the Heat last week.
Just because of age, I think he would still go ahead of Jaime Jaquez. And then after that, it's like, there's some guys there who I think you would definitely like.
Bilal. I mean, Bilal's been.
Bilal, Bilal, like I think there are certain guys that you could still definitely talk yourself into just because of the upside thing. Like Bilal's been good, but like Jet Howard, like is he give you anything more than, especially because the Magic are like good, right? So it's like different. I mean, Kassan Wallace has been good. That's another one who would maybe be still ahead of Jaquez. But I think top 10, I mean, like the Lakers took Jalen Hood-Schifino a spot ahead of him. Like, you think they could use Jaime Jaquez?
I can't say his name, so I'm not going to say it. But the Golden State pick, Brandon
Pajemski, who goes one spot after.
He's been good.
Jaquez,
He's been good for them too. But yeah, I think I do think like we kind of overstated like, oh, Jaime Hawkins is 22. He doesn't really have much upside. Like I still think he can get a lot better. He's still only 22.
I don't even care because like you got to start giving out contracts eventually. And how many times are teams giving out contracts to guys that they don't really know what they are? Like
we know Jaime's
Hawkins is gonna be in his prime on that second contract.
Yeah, exactly. So I think you can make an argument it could be a top 5 pick, but I'm gonna say 6 because I just think those teams would like if I was one of those teams, I would keep that pick even though Jaime's looks so good because of just sheer potential, like just high ceiling.
Yeah, I put him 8. I think you could very easily convince me though that he would be closer to like 10. Like I know a lot of Wizards fans who love the Bilal Coulibaly highlights. Like Jordan Hawkins has been like a nice, another guy in that lottery.
As a Wizards fan, would you take Jaime over Bilal?
That is tough because so the thing with the Wizards is they're like in just full be as crappy as possible. Like they're processing, they're at like the start of the process. So like, Jaquez realistically like is never going to be actually useful to you. So I think I probably would still take Bilal, but like for a normal team that would be picking at 8, or 7 where the Wizards took him, like usually that's a team that's getting ready to start contending a little bit. So like that's the challenge here, right? Is like, no, you would not take him in the top 5 because if you're taking in the top 5, you're taking a guy, you need to be drafting a guy you think has a chance to be like
long-term
all NBA. Yeah. But once you get into like 7, 8, 9, like Bam Adebayo was good in college. Tyler Hero was good in college. Jaime Jaquez was an All-American. Like once you get around 10 or whatever that is, where you're not necessarily thinking like draft a superstar, that's just take those kind of guys, I think.
Yeah, and are you saying Jaime can't be an first team All NBA guy? Is that
first
team
All NBA might be a little like it could be an all-star. I think we talked about that last week, I think, or 2 weeks ago. But
he has all-star potential, I think, for sure.
Yeah, I think so too.
He just has he's a good fit for what he needed. They needed a guy that could make an impact right away. He's clearly been one of their most important players. I think he played 40 minutes last night, 38 minutes, 39 minutes. Like he's playing more minutes than most guys.
Yeah.
He's been available every game, durable, and he fills in whatever role they need. He's been huge. Like for the Heat, it's been the perfect pick. Yeah. Like you said, maybe for Washington, it wouldn't be the guy because you need more of a long-term guy. You need somebody that could necessarily play this well right away. But for the Heat, it's been perfect.
And there are teams ahead of the Heat that like I said, the Lakers, the Hawks, who took Kobe Buffkin, Orlando, who we mentioned, they took Anthony Black and Jet Howard. And maybe you wouldn't take Jaquez at 6, but at 11, like that would have made a lot of sense. So, he was the only upperclassman taken in the first 22 picks. Every other player was either a freshman or sophomore or European or came from like overtime elite / G League. So they were one and done there too. So, it's a little bit of a inefficiency. Now you can get in a lot of trouble sometimes. Like Jimmer, what pick did Jimmer go? That was like a disaster. But it's an inefficiency if you can find the right guy who's gets passed over because of age concerns, which is like the only explanation really for why Jaquez fell as far as he did.
And it's been a big part of the Heat's roster building because they haven't had much cap space or any cap space during this entire stretch. And
I mean all the undrafted guys that we're raving about, those guys are all older guys.
Yeah, so I mean you hit on guys like Bam, Tyler, Jaime, Nico's remains to be seen. We hit on guys like that in the draft, hit home runs with Bam and Tyler. Jaime looks like another home run. I mean, where would they be without the draft? For a team that people say that a team that doesn't care about the draft, it's been a huge part of the Jimmy Butler era and surrounding him with talent. We should mention, because we've mentioned all the, and the Heat have made many more very, very good picks than bad ones. And not that Precious was a bad pick, but at 20 to take Precious, they took Precious at number 20 in 2020. It wasn't the home run. Precious played 1 year. You ended up flipping him for Kyle Lowry in that package, so at least you got something out of it. but Maxey was taken 21 right after the Heat. So clearly, if they had to do it again, I'm assuming they would take Maxey. So that one didn't go as well, but considering how well he'd have done in the other years recently, I think you give him that one.
Yeah, 4 for 5. And again, like the important thing I think on a lot of these is, as I mentioned, like with the Jovic pick, there's no one that you felt like you missed on. Like there's no one who went, even like with Bam, it's not like Tatum went a spot later. Like they got the best guy available in
even Donovan
every
Mitchell
one
was
of these
taken,
situations.
I think before
Mitchell
Bam,
was a
right?
spot ahead. Yeah, one spot ahead. So even if you want to argue that he's been the second best player in the draft, across the board, like they've nailed all these picks.
Yeah.
All right.
Sure.
I think we can close things out there. You can follow Anthony on Twitter at Anthony_Chang. You can follow me on Twitter at DBWilson2. We'll be back sometime next week.
Yeah. I'll be on the road, but figure it out.
Yeah, you'll be on the road, so we'll figure it out. But a couple of fun home games for the Heat this week that we will definitely be talking about. Anyway, thanks again for listening, and we'll talk to you guys next week.